Hello everyone, and welcome to Chapter 2, which is called The New Frontier, because this is where your real adventure, your big task starts. Exploring the planet of Mira, developing it, improving life for everybody and making it safe. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, I don't have a consistent recorded footage of the first 3 chapters. I will fill you in as best I can, and as from chapter 4, my coverage should hopefully capture everything I do, as long as I remember to press that record button on my capture device. We're jumping straight into the action in Chapter 2. Our task is to install our first data probe. However, there is someone standing in the way of achieving that.
You don't think that one Senicula could have killed all these simius? Unless... what?
This is bad.
What's bad? I don't follow you.
That Senicula. It's a tyrant.
Huh? But it looks just like any other Senicula.
Think about it. Your typical simius is way higher up on the food chain than your typical Senicula, right? Usually we'd find one simius standing over 3 or 4 Senicula corpses. But here, the tables have been turned. And I don't see a single trace of any other indigens in the area. There's only one explanation. That Senicula is a tyrant.
Let me check the Blade Report database. If there's a tyrant this close to the city, someone must have run across it. Bingo. There was a Senicula tyrant sighted not too long ago. But it was a couple of segments further out.
It could have followed the blade that spotted it back towards New LA, or come here to feed, or who knows what.
That's crazy. I can't believe there's a tyrant right on our doorstep and HQ isn't doing a thing about it.
Well, don't forget why they sent us here in the first place. Frontier Nav's range is still limited.
Oh, right. They couldn't track it if there's no local probe. They must have lost it when it went off the grid.
What to do? Rush in and attack it, or talk about it first?
The Tyrant designation is given to creatures that pose a special threat in the area. That doesn't always mean raw strength. Some Tyrants will actually register as low rank when we find them out in the field and engage them in combat.
But don't let that fool you. If a creature shows up as a tyrant, you can be sure it's got at least one nasty trait or ability to speak of. The system can't account for everything, though, so don't let your guard down, no matter what rank it assigns. Even some of Blade's very best teams have come back with serious injuries after running into a tyrant in the field. If they come back at all.
I'm not sure it makes any difference for the story how you answer these types of questions. Here we have one where the choice is really just a slight difference of approach.
As long as you understand the risks involved. Lynn?
Count me in. The same goes for everyone in New LA, but if we're gonna settle here on this planet, we're gonna have to get used to dealing with tyrants now and then. Besides, if I need to, I can always run away while it's busy chewing on one of you guys.
Fair enough. But don't push it, okay? Either of you. If we can take it down, great, but if not, even just luring it away would be a moral victory. As long as we buy enough time to install the probe, we can use Frontier Nav to track it, or any other tyrant that comes this close to the city from now on. Just make sure you're ready before we attack. This'll be tougher than anything else we've faced.
So here we are being given some very pointed and very clear advice. Make sure you're well prepared, and I intend to do so. Now, this is one of the features I love about X. The game does not rush you. Anything important you need to know, that information will be given to you at the right time and in very clear format. So we'll go into the menu now and spend some time there, and I will get myself ready. Spending time in the menu is important in this game, like in most RPGs. If you don't like doing that at all, then this may not be the right game for you. The more you become familiar with the menu and all the options you can adjust and customize and tweak and improve, the better your gameplay experience will be. Here you see me upgrading the various arts. It's fairly simple at this stage because you only have a certain number, and I simply upgrade those as much as I can. The arts are the ones that appear on the hotbar, which you activate during combat. Note also, please, the amount of detail and information you're being given on these screens. There is a lot, but it is very concise. You probably can't take it all in the first time, but don't worry, you'll be back there many times and you will become very familiar with all the arts and how they work and which ones you like to upgrade and which ones you don't care so much about. Now, chrome armor, for example, is a really nice one because it boosts resistance for an ally near you. Or sword hammer does exactly what it says. And you can see I like the sound of it because I upgraded it twice to level 3. Any arts that boost your attack from the side in capital letters or from behind are extremely useful because the enemies are far more vulnerable that way. Recuperate boosts evasion and continually repairs your HP. Well, I do like the sound of that. We'll have a look at Lynn's arts. Now, hers are obviously geared towards defense, but she also has some really useful attacks that can inflict or help with topple. And topple is something you really want to look for, because if you topple an enemy, they are prone, and your attacks will then really be able to finish it off. So, you say, am I done yet? Oh, just a moment, hold your horses. We haven't done the skills yet. Yes, more menu time. And you see here in my beginner drifter class, I don't have any skills. Drifter doesn't have any skills of its own, but it has 5 skill slots and you can acquire skills elsewhere and then use them in drifter if you wish. You really can work this game the way you want. As you've probably noticed by now, skills are passive skills, providing generally statistical buffs and also enemy debuffs. You use the battle points, top right, which are also shared with the arts, to upgrade your skills. Elma has 1 skill available that I can upgrade, Agile Gunslinger. I usually do the arts first, keep a few battle points back for doing the skills, and then if I have any points left over, I go back to the arts and top up anything there. Lynn has some nice skills in her class, but the skill slot hasn't been activated yet. So I'm going back to the arts and using up what points I have left there. It would be prudent to save now. Please remember there is only 1 save file, so when you overwrite it, that is quite crucial. But I still recommend saving often, because even if you make a decision that you feel was not ideal, and of course you can't go back to correct it, the game does not actually punish you for this. It doesn't make it unplayable or far too difficult. You simply need to work around those decisions and carry on. In that sense, it really does reflect life, because you got to live with all sorts of decisions you make, and a lot of them are not always what one maybe would have wished for. Now, why on earth am I still running around attacking these sheep-like creatures called ovis? For the simple reason that I'm not quite sure I'm strong enough yet. I'm not the type of player to rush in when facing a boss. Especially with the Tyrant, the level gives you no real indication of its strength and abilities. So I want to be well prepared and have a bit of a buffer in terms of level.
That was some great teamwork.
Some juicy wild meat. I think I'm eyeing up a lepix there, these tall creatures, but they are pretty difficult to bring down and you really need to topple them. Okay, I've leveled up and I think it's time to check my stats and see whether I think I'm ready for facing Volkampf. So Elma is level 7, that looks pretty good. She has a great set of arts and skills. Now, for myself, I'm level 6, which should be adequate, I reckon. I see I still haven't changed that personal greeting. You can see dusk is setting in. Now, I do not want to battle Volkampf at night time, so let's go and do this. I'm trying to sneak up, and yay, we've discovered the Moranium deposit, FN Site 116. That's Frontier Nav site. Oh, he spotted us. We better get on to him. Don't think I had worked out at that stage how to jump over rocks in combat. He's got a really nasty ether laser attack from his mouth. I'm playing as Elma in this battle because she is the strongest at the moment in the team, and I'm trying to get round the side and attack him from the side, as recommended. I am, of course, much more familiar with my own weapons and arts than I am with Elma's, so maybe I shouldn't have switched to her after all. And that's always nice if you can get several like that in with a good. He is so big that using ranged attack going upwards is also not a bad idea, but very difficult to pull off the B button attack here. I don't think I had figured out at that stage yet how to lock on to specific parts of the enemy, appendages, etc. So my attacks are not as effective as they could be, but I'm making good progress, I think. Elma is shouting, use an aura, but of course both Lynn and I don't yet have much in the way of an aura arts yet. And we got him. Achievement unlocked.
We are awesome!
Nice work, Lynn. You fought well. You did too. Now let's get down to business and install that data probe. If we stay here for long, there's no telling what other playmates might show up. This beam of light indicates a frontier nav site. It marks the ideal spot to bury the probe.
So here we are learning the basics of data probe installation, and that's of course of vital importance.
Okay, the probe should be ready for insertion. I'll just boot it up.
Thanks, Lynn. The top half of the cylinder contains the probe itself. The bottom half is a laser. It dissolves the soil so the probe can burrow to the proper depth. We tried just planting them on the surface at first, but we kept running into problems with the local wildlife damaging the goods. Burying them is going to save us all a lot of time and headaches in the long run. We all set?
Yes, ma'am. Whenever you're ready.
Why don't you do the honors? You can launch it right from your comm device. Give it a try.
Exciting, isn't it?
Good. Now we just need to give it a minute to reach the target depth.
And installation complete. We are now online with a solid connection to Frontier Nav.
Excellent. See, at the end of the day, there's really not much to it. The hardest part was calculating the ideal probe locations. We need them spread out evenly to maximize data collection.
Yep, planting probes is easy. And the more we plant, the more likely we are to find missing crew. So anytime you see a probe site, there's no excuse not to plant that sucker.
That'll do it for your training. Let's head back to the barracks and report to Secretary Nagi.
I never stop getting stronger.
That's true on any planet.
Survival bodywear is good stuff, and worn does not imply inferior. Okay, here we have Lau giving us some basic advice, reinforcing what we need to know about installing data probes. And finally, Elma reinforces some advice about being extremely careful engaging massive foes. On Mira, basically, the bigger the size, the more cautious you should be. You've probably noticed by now that whichever environment your Blade team is running through, there is a whole variation and selection of indigens around, from low level right up to very high level, and you need to be aware of that all the time. Always keeping a lookout for the higher level aggressive enemies marked with a red icon. Otherwise you can just happily bypass even the biggest ones if they are peaceful. It feels like a real environment to me, and you need to take the kind of precautions you would take anywhere where there were all sorts of creatures roaming about. One thing I've learned, always check looking behind you. If you see the camera circling around, that's me always checking. From experience, because you're very likely to be attacked and hit from behind, and it can easily be curtains. So what the heck am I doing running around at night time when I've been told to go back to the barracks for debriefing? Well, I'm still on a high from the Volkampf battle, so decided to take on some nocturnal vespers, which I can now take on comfortably, having reached a good level and arts, etc. You know, it's that old, just a few more feeling. You see what happens here? The moment we have downed one Vesper, the next one starts attacking us. Now this is something to be aware of with enemies that come in flocks, sometimes in large numbers. You could be battling away, many of them, for quite a while, and need to be able to keep your resources up. I've been in situations where even enemies at a level that I should be able to deal with, if they come in large numbers, I was pushed to the brink. Now, you ask, what do I do with all that stuff from enemy drops? All these items, will I ever need them? The answer is yes. Keep everything. You've got a very generous inventory. Later on in the game, actually quite soon, you will be able to fashion your own augments, they're called. And I look forward to showing you how that works, because it is absolutely amazing how you can improve your equipment. Even some basic equipment can be catapulted into the stratosphere. We are weary and footsore, but we have finally reached home, the East Gate of New LA. This is the only gate available at the moment for us to enter and exit. There is also, of course, a West Gate, and you may remember how when we first reached New LA, we weren't able to use the gate. We had to use the stairs and the elevator to get in. That is Westgate. It's near the huge Blade Tower, and that will be unlocked quite soon. And our efforts in procuring resources and items certainly contribute to that. Yay! Home! The BLADE Barracks! Time to report what we have achieved. Some of the scenes you have already seen in the video about New Los Angeles, so I will keep it brief here and just update you on what you have not seen yet. You see the exclamation mark up there? That's the conference room, and that's where we need to report. And you see Commander Vandam, you've already met him.
Well now, look what the cat dragged in.
And behind him stands the boss, Nagi.
Sorry we missed you last time. We could have come to meet you at HQ, you know.
Indeed. I suggested as much. Twice.
And we know how much I enjoy being told what to do. Anyway, I hear you tangled with a tyrant, way out of your league, on a training mission, no less. That was reckless, and goddamn magnificent.
Our reward is 3 probes for mining and research. Now, these are actually not that easy to come by, and I'm currently looking at how to get more.
So, Commander, to what do we owe the pleasure of your visit here today?
Well, I can't just ask Nagi to do everything for me. I'd be out of a job.
Hey, I delivered you the new recruit, didn't I?
Yeah, you won the bet. Don't worry about it, all right? I'll settle up with you later. You know I'm good for it.
The bet?
I'm sure I'm needed elsewhere. If you'll all excuse me, Commander.
Nagi is also a recruitable player character.
Well, that wasn't obvious at all.
Huh. Look at you two. I swear you're like 2 children excited about a new toy.
Look who's talking. I don't recall ever seeing you file a request to personally train a rescue before.
Is that so odd?
It is before we'd even asked her to become a blade, little Miss Stick in the Rear.
Usually I ask when I don't get your slang expressions, but something tells me to just let that one go.
Enough about that. Where are your manners, anyway? I still haven't been introduced to our new recruit here.
Commander Vandam is Blade's top officer.
In a past life, I was chief engineer on the White Whale. Same idea, basically. Someone has a problem, I fix it. You follow? Huh. Not much for conversation, are you?
So you still haven't told us why you're here. From the look of things, I'm guessing this isn't a social call.
You don't think?
No. So let's cut the crap and get down to business.
Ha! Sounds like you're learning my expressions just fine, Elma. Anyway, first we need Chatty Cathy here to choose a division and pull an assignment.
Some real New LA tensions here. Commander Vandam does not mince any words, but Elma seems to be able to neutralise his comments quite nicely. I think they're very well matched. I like that the game has these sorts of interpersonal rivalries and tense moments. You would expect that in a situation like they find themselves in. So, obviously, the right thing to do here is to ask for more information. What do? Well, I think I've fallen asleep at the wheel.
Whoa there, Itchy Trigger. I know you're just chafing at the bit to run out there and grab the world by its tail, but you need to choose a division first. Once that's all hashed out, we can get into detail about what your first assignment's gonna be.
Pretty much everyone in New LA works for BLADE, in one of several different fields. Helping to explore Mira, or to maintain order in the city, or, well, you remember Nagi's speech, right? There are 8 different fields in all, and each one has its own branch within BLADE. Officially, they're called divisions. Naturally, you'll want to choose one that best suits your personality and your talents.
Let's start with the Pathfinders. Pathfinder's #1 responsibility is planting data probes, like you did on your training mission. It may not be the sexiest job, but important? You bet your ass it's important. We've only been on Mira 2 months. We don't know jack about this place. The more probes we install, the faster we can get our bearings here and give ourselves a fighting chance.
We've already detailed how important it is we expand the Frontier Nav network ASAP. So, for the time being, I'll just remind you of the highlights. It helps us keep BLADE safe. It helps us keep the city safe. And most important of all, it's the key to locating the missing parts of the Lifehold and recovering the rest of the human race.
This bit you have seen in part 2, so I just want to mention that I changed my initial choice of division, Prospectors, to Pathfinders. I will explain my thinking behind that in a video I plan to do about the resources I use for finding further information and for solving problems. And the division structure was one aspect of the game that I felt I never really fully understood. So that was Chapter 2. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you in Chapter 3. There's one issue I haven't really talked about yet, and that concerns how to pronounce the title of the game. I got stuck many years ago into, for whatever reason, calling it Xenoblade and X. But in fact that is probably not the best pronunciation. For one, the word Xeno comes from the Greek. It means outsider, basically alien. Keeping that pronunciation probably makes more sense, although many people also say Xeno in the West. So take your pick, but Xenoblade is probably better. Now, the X poses a particular issue because in Japan, in the gaming scene, the X is generally pronounced as cross. So going with calling it cross certainly makes sense, but being a Westerner, I suppose X is also okay. So I'm basically saying, whichever you pick, it still remains one of the finest RPGs out there.